In a previous recording, we've talked about how everything is monitored, and by default, it's going to be maintained for 90 days. We want to introduce the Log Analytics Workbook and Workspaces to keep this information at a desired length of time that your organization requires. My name is Bob Tickleman. I'm excited to be your guide for Log Analytics Workspaces. By default, Azure is going to maintain the log and metric information for free for 90 days. It's going to be on you to be able to identify which information from a variety of locations, even outside of Azure, that you want to aggregate together into a common location and maintain it for a longer period of time. That is your skill that you will have in creating log analytics workspaces and creating workbooks to analyze that information. As I said previously, logs and metrics are going to be maintained for a long period of time, 90 days, by default. That information is maintained inside of Azure. Getting that information into a format and for a length of time is going to be on you, and using log analytics for that information to store it is going to be your responsibility to configure and then analyze that information inside of your Azure subscription. We're going to be doing a demonstration in a few minutes on how to enable that, but this is the service that is a KQL capable language store that you could then run queries against and create the creative monitoring and analysis that your organization is going to require. The Log Analytics Workspace at its basis is a storage account that you'll come in and collect the information for a period of time in a specific location that you can now use to monitor and run your reports against. So the Log Analytics Workspace, you can have one for a large volume of data. It could be your idea to partition it off into several different areas. I would put some thought and consideration in it because it is a storage account that will be based on the volume of information. The more information you have in it, the more it's going to cost you. And if you've got duplicate information in multiple analytics workspaces, you're doubling your storage costs. So do spend a bit of time thinking about the hierarchy, what information you need to store, and for how long. Because keeping everything for as long as you possibly can, and possibly redundantly, is going to significantly increase your storage costs. The log analytics data exists in a KQL structure in the workspace. It can be analyzed through the graphical portal or through a series of command line and other tools like Grafana that can query the information and present that information graphically. In one of the earlier modules, we talked about being able to display this information. It can be done, as I said, through Grafana reports. You can create PDF documents and send them out, emails. They can be part of dashboard manipulation that you're working with to make this information available in a needed report, and even make them drill through, as I did in another example where we had the information available in Azure Advisor that we could drill through to get the very deep information that generated the actual alert itself. The workspace is broken up into a series of tables that you then create. That information is going to be stored in the table and is easily queried using the KQL language. You see an example of that down the right-hand side of the screen. KQL is almost English-like in the way it's read and how you write it. And just learning that structure can be quite simple to be able to then get quite sophisticated queries against that information. So let's go and take a look at the Log Analytics Workspace and some of the features that it provides. So I'm in the Log Analytics blade on the Azure portal. I'm going to create a Log Analytics Workspace and then go into one that I've already created. But the creation is quite simple, very similar to a storage account. I'm going to put it in my resource group, build it to a subscription, AZ-104 demo. What region do I want it deployed in? Review and create. So not a lot of work to set it up. Querying and collecting the information from the various locations is going to be where the setup comes, and we'll be doing that in a bit. I've already got one that's been created, and I'm going to go there now. So if I take a look at an existing Log Analytics workspace that I've collected some information in, I want to take a look at my table structures. So here's an example. I've got my alerts table, my app center error, my Azure metrics. So I've got a series of the tables that collects the information I've got the agents that collect the information if I needed to. Here's an example. If I've got some Windows computers that I need to connect to this information, as I said, we can collect this not only from Azure, which we've collected all by default, we can actually have these agents that we install on devices to collect it and bring it into the workspace. Under the monitoring tab, we have some insights that you're going to be able to work with, which are some pre-built workbooks. A workbook is a pre-configured set of queries and representation of that information that you could easily come in and just click on without having to go back in and configure every single time. We've got a couple of quick start templates that they have. They've got a default template here that shows you the structure that you could use this as a starting point to populate the specific KQL query that you wanted, and then just save that back to the dashboard. And then you could have a series, as I said, run books that say, here's my monthly report, here's the monthly report by region, here's the incident report that you're dealing with by device. So you can create a series of reports, create the run book, which is an automated form to repeat the running of that query to get the information you're looking for. So a fairly straightforward way to look at the information and use it and gather it using the Log Analytics workspace and the appropriate workbooks. Let's return back to the presentation. Azure Monitor as a tool to be able to collect log and metric information from a wide variety of sources, whether they be in Azure, other cloud solutions, or on premises, is at the heart of being able to determine the health and the performance of your systems. Ingesting that information into a Log Analytics workspace becomes the location where you now have a repository of the specific information that you need to be able to measure and metric that information over a period of time. You're going to be able to do some predictive look-ahead queries, as well as to analyze potential issues at the time that they happen in the past. Including that information in the workspace is your architectural design of crafting what information you need, how you need it, and for how long, and then combining that with the automation of workbooks that have these predefined queries that you can automate and run to now perform that repetitive task. Thank you for participating in this Microsoft Azure Administrator course. I hope you've enjoyed learning about Azure as much as I've enjoyed presenting the concepts and walking you through the live demos. I encourage you also to remain curious and continue exploring new capabilities. That's how you'll stay relevant. There are many ways to continue your learning journey, and I invite you to search for your next favorite topic on Microsoft Learn at aka.ms/learn.